Welcome to her remarkable history. Remember, to support our channel, please subscribe. The terrifying imprisonment of Elizabeth I inside the Tower of London. On the 18th of March, 1554, Princess Elizabeth found herself imprisoned within the bell tower at the Tower of London. Her half-sister was on the throne, Mary I, and had ordered her into the tower as a result of the Wyatt's rebellion. Mary was insistent on restoring England to Catholicism, following her father and brother Edward VI's Protestant reforms to religion. Sir Thomas Wyatt led a rebellion against her, and he wrote to Elizabeth notifying his intentions to overthrow Mary. But once this letter was intercepted, Elizabeth was linked to the treasonous plot. The government managed to suppress the rebellion. However, Elizabeth was dangerous for Mary I to have around. Elizabeth did not encourage the plot. However, she was summoned to London for questioning by the Queen's authorities. It's most likely that the princess, who at the time was just 20, was without a doubt terrified, and she also was not very well. She said she could not travel, and Mary sent 2 of her doctors to check on her, with Elizabeth being diagnosed with watery humours and an infection in her kidneys. She was ill, but the doctors believed she could travel 30 miles to meet the Queen's charges, and she slowly, under an escort, was taken to London. As she rode into the city, she cast a frightening figure, and she passed under the heads of Wyatt and his supporters placed upon spikes throughout the city. Elizabeth's household was dismissed, and then she was interrogated by the harsh Bishop of Winchester, Stephen Gardiner. But Elizabeth rose to the occasion and denied any involvement in the conspiracy, and she demanded to see Mary. As she was seen as dangerous, Gardiner then sent Princess Elizabeth, the younger sister to the Queen, to the Tower of London. Elizabeth was definitely scared, and the thought of the Tower for her must have been petrifying. It's the place where years earlier her mother, Anne Boleyn, had her head cut off on Tower Green by a French swordsman, and like her mother, she was now a prisoner of the monarchy inside the infamous Tower of London. She wrote to her sister, denying any involvement, saying, "I pray to God I may die the shamefullest death that any ever died, if I may mean any such thing. I never practised, counselled, nor consented to anything that might be prejudicial to you person in any way, or dangerous to the state by any means." When Elizabeth arrived at the Tower on the 18th of March 1554, it was a cold and grey day, with rain coming off the River Thames. She was taken from her room and was joined by 6 of her ladies and 2 male attendants, and she was then taken by barge down the River Thames to the Tower. She saw that she would enter via Traitor's Gate, beneath St. Thomas's Tower, the usual place of entrance for prisoners returning to their prison following their trial. This would have been shocking, and she begged to be taken in any other entrance but Traitor's Gate, but this was refused. She saw that the yeoman warders, or beefeaters, had gathered to meet her at the gate, and she said, "I never thought to have come in here as a prisoner, and I pray you will bear me witness that I come in as no traitor, but as a true woman to the Queen's majesty." Several of the beefeaters paid respects to her, but Elizabeth refused to enter the Tower. She was sat on a stone, and would not move, saying, "It's better I sit here than in a worse place where you will bring me." She was then taken eventually to the bell tower, and her room was on the 1st floor. It had inside it a large fireplace with 3 small windows, and there was also toilets down a passageway that hung over the moat. It was not the uncomfortable and terrible imprisonment that you would associate with the Tower during the Tudor period. She was a princess after all, but the Tower of London had a huge psychological effect on Elizabeth, and the result of her imprisonment there would have been to cause chaos with Elizabeth's mind. From her room, it was only a short walk from where her mum's head was cut off after she was accused of treason, adultery and incest. Elizabeth spent 2 months inside the Tower, with every day believing that the knock on the door would result in her execution, with a detachment of soldiers fetched to execute her at the request of Queen Mary I. She was allowed to take a walk along the walls of the Tower, but when a small child gave her a gift of flowers, the constable of the Tower forced her to stay indoors, as she was deemed dangerous. Often she was interrogated further by Mary's advisers, but she maintained her innocence and she was not intimidated by them. Because of the psychological toll that the Tower was having on her, Princess Elizabeth lost weight and also started to suffer from stomach issues and also headaches brought on by the stress of her imprisonment. She was an active person and now was confined to her room. She even worried that she would be poisoned whilst inside the Tower. However, Sir Henry Bedingfield was then made the new Constable of the Tower. He was a prominent Catholic and was very powerful in Mary's government. Elizabeth had never met him before, but she knew of his feared reputation. She believed he had been sent to arrange her murder, and she heard rumours that Mary's council, specifically some members of it, had drawn up a warrant for her execution. This warrant was actually sent, it's believed, by Bishop Gardiner, and it made its way inside the Tower of London and was delivered to the Lieutenant of the Tower, Sir John Bridges. However, this death warrant was then carried to the man responsible of arranging her execution and was checked by Bridges, and he noticed one thing: the death warrant was incomplete and Mary I had not signed this, and it lacked her signature. Because of this, he refused to act out on the request until hearing otherwise. Elizabeth had no idea what would happen, but she thought she was going to die at the hands of Mary's Catholic privy councillors. However, Elizabeth was kept alive, and on the 19th of May, after being imprisoned for 2 months, was released from the Tower of London. It's believed that Mary found out about the plot to arrange for her execution without her consent, and that she actually grew sympathetic of her younger half-sister. For this, she treated her more fairly. She was then placed under house arrest. The impact of Elizabeth's imprisonment had a damaging and significant impact on her mental state, and also the sort of queen she would become when she came onto the throne. She was a queen hesitant to sentence members of royalty to death, for example, Mary Queen of Scots, and was hesitant to order executions. However, her imprisonment of the Tower of London was very harsh. Thank you for watching, and to support, please subscribe to Her Remarkable History. Thank you.